Today we're going to look at Latvia. Normally I look at the economic things in the countries, the infrastructure, factories, things like that. I couldn't find anything crazy in Latvia. So some of these videos are almost like, trying to show you places that would be interesting to visit. And since I couldn't find anything economical, I thought I'd go more down the historical route. And there are some really cool Soviet bases in Latvia, some really cool equipment, massive telescopes, satellite dishes, things like that. Um, I did look at the economics at the start. I was trying to find out what they were kind of exporting. So just kind of agricultural goods, wood products, food, and then a few metals, machinery, equipment to their local neighbours, Lithuania, Russia, Estonia, and the likes. Not sure about Russian trade, if that's changed since the war. I'm not entirely certain about that. One thing that I did know from history, which was really interesting, is in 1989 there was the Human Chain, which was basically a peaceful protest against the Kremlin, that the three Baltic countries, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, wanted to be independent. This was probably one of the most amazing peaceful protests ever, and it may never happen again in the same way. 700 kilometers basically of people holding hands across the countries, literally blocking roads. Really something super amazing. I mean, I don't know whose idea it was or how they came up with it, but even just to organize it really was quite impressive. And yeah, 2 years later, they did become independent. In 1991, the Soviet government finally recognized the independence of all three Baltic states, followed by complete withdrawal of Russian troops, except from a few bases which we're going to look at in this video. Here is an old Russian rocket base. A lot of these were for nuclear rockets as well. I think from this particular base, they were able to reach Europe. That was kind of the idea. There's some pictures on Google Maps. Not much to see anymore. Just a lot of old shacks, really. There were some cool murals on the inside at some point, but they've probably been removed. I thought that was quite interesting. This was called the Skrunda military base. The aim of the facility was to monitor space above Western Europe and North America, as well to intercept any ballistic missiles that were fired at the USSR. The territory is closed to visitors, but it's an important part of Latvia's military heritage. The abandoned territory can be viewed from the outside, which is also what I've kind of done from here. This is a different one. Yeah, okay, I'll go back to Google Maps where I do have that one open. Not much to see really, but it's just cool to know that it's there. It would be kind of cool to visit these sort of places, just to look at the equipment and stuff. Even some of the silos are still visible, I think, especially in the next one I'm going to show you here. Old Russian rocket base. This is one that was being dismantled. These kind of 10-meter deep silos, 10-story. Sorry, I should say 10-story. That's what was in this particular article. If I could find it here. Talking about how much concrete had to be removed. Yeah, I think it was this one here. The principle, this is an impressive 10-story underground building, and the concrete, of course, is very strong, so it makes it a very difficult thing to dismantle, costing almost 200,000 euros to remove. That's kind of, I think it's a stock image of a missile silo, but again, very interesting. Here is the some of the buildings on that site, some of the abandoned Soviet army base buildings, in essence, basically. And here's another similar one. This one's a little bit further east. This is a big statue of Lenin, and again, there's loads of cool equipment left around the place. I think this one is open to tourists, actually. This one is further east. I do have it on the map here. That's this one particularly. I think that big statue of Lenin is right there, but again, it's a bit hard to tell. The map doesn't give us the best quality in this case, and there's some buildings still left over and whatnot. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Also, there was an article about how it's been the Skundra one's been redone up for defense forces to actually use it a bit for training, which makes sense. I mean, these sort of places should be used for training, if not anything else, maybe for heritage as well. Look at the stacks of timber there. Yeah, interesting. One of the more interesting ones, and again, here's just the monument to Lenin that I was trying to point out the location of. Yeah, okay, it's not going to give us good pictures. One of the more interesting ones is this satellite station. There is an absolutely massive satellite, telescope. That's the telescope there. But hard to see it. But there's a huge satellite dish. Now, I don't know, is that satellite dish there? The maps have confused me a small bit, but I do have pretty good pictures of it. Here is a building that's been demolished, but it's actually still intact in a different map. Here's a satellite dish. This thing is absolutely gigantic. I do think I have some pretty good pictures of it. That's the top of it. But yeah, here we go. Look at that. That is just mad. I think really impressive. Again, probably used to monitor US space satellites. Just really cool equipment. Again, one of the sad things about the fall of the Soviet Union was that there was kind of a big loss of information and skills that they had developed. Even though the Americans would say that they've developed superior stuff, there was definitely a wealth of information there, which has disappeared, which is also a pity in a sense, I suppose. Um, Even though that's obviously, I'm saying that stuff should be used for good purposes. Here's the same satellite region, and the base is called Irben. This place was actually not on the maps. It was a secret base, even though they had schools and stuff for the people who were staying there. It was not on the maps. There is the satellite dish. Again, I think that would be really cool to visit. And here's that building that's now been demolished on the other map that I was looking at earlier on. Again, interesting pieces of equipment there. And here we have kind of big multi-story buildings. You can kind of see at the angle that the picture's been taken at, yeah, where all the people were housed when they were living there at the time. I do have a small bit of history open there somewhere. Those are those buildings again from the other angle. Let me see if I can find the tab. Hidden in the forest, the urban facility was used by Soviets to spy on American satellites. Today, the huge 600-ton, 32-meter dish mounted on a 25-meter tall concrete base is open for tours and such. Yeah, thought that was pretty cool. Anything else? There's just the same views again. Some abandoned tanks. I was looking for abandoned equipment, but I couldn't find anything in Latvia specifically. There's a great picture of the dish again. That's an amazing picture. I'll link this. Make sure that the credits for whoever owns it are linked in the video. And again, a small bit here. The town had a school, shops, board, concert halls. However, the town was not marked on maps. Only the holders of special permits were able to access Irben. After the withdrawal of the Soviet Army in 1993, the town became abandoned. So it's like a ghost town, according to the Wikipedia page. This is the last bit of Soviet infrastructure. Ruined bunkers on the beach of the Baltic Sea, part of an old fort. I thought these were pretty cool as well. You can kind of see it from the maps here. That, I believe, is this particular building here. It's just weird that it's falling over in the sea. I wonder what happened to it. Did it get damaged? But that's what that is, in my opinion. And you can kind of see these installments from these maps. Various pieces of concrete reinforced all the way along to defend this town, I suppose, here. And again, some really good pictures on Google Maps here. Thanks to Vladis Portopus for uploading those. Yeah, so again, like these videos are kind of, if they're not going to be economical, I'm going to try and show you, I'm going to try and show you things that will be worth visiting, basically, in these countries when I do my research. And in the context of that, I'm showing you Soviet stuff. This is just one fort. It's a much older, an early 19th century fortress in Latvia. It is the only military fortification of its kind in Northern Europe, preserved without significant alterations. So it's really a high quality example of a fort. Look at that. We did these forts in some of our classes in the last while. So you have these various defenses. The point being that the moat stops you coming into the fort on your horses or even just as men. And then there'll be men here with guns shooting at you and cannons. And these ones here, for example, if you manage to get across this bit of water and kill the people who are trying to kill you here and then take this part, you're still really far from the fort. So there's still more work to do. That's kind of the idea of these very clever bastions. And also note the way they're triangular. So if you're trying to attack this point here, you're kind of open to attack from many different directions. Someone from here can shoot you, someone from there can shoot you, someone from there can shoot you. If you're coming here, you can be attacked from both sides. Once you get in there, you can be attacked from both sides and the front. And these bastion towers as well can shoot you as well. So they're really well designed. Robyn is the French architect from one of the guys who was kind of credited with making the best fortresses of those times, the Robyn fortress. He also designed ways to take fortresses as well. Fortifications of Robyn, a lot of them in France. Some of the best fortifications that you'll ever see and that are still intact. I would recommend you look at those if you're interested in that kind of thing. But okay, I'm going to focus a little bit more just on the one in Latvia. This is when I googled this here. I also saw a picture of it in the snow, which I thought was also very beautiful. So again, I wouldn't dare pronounce that dog of Villis Pills. I don't know, sorry, I'm really bad pronunciation. But that would be something very interesting to look at as well in Latvia. Yeah, so that's kind of all I wanted to show you today. In terms of economics, they have a big hydro plant, the largest in the Baltics and one of the largest in Europe. Um, bit of an bit of an interesting history as to how it got developed. There was protests, and then they basically replaced the politicians with pro-Moscow guys, and they still built it despite most Latvians being opposed to the flooding of the region where the dam was going to be built. It's on the main river at Riga, basically. Yeah, I thought that was also worth mentioning in terms of the economics. In terms of flooding, they're not going to have any big issues. It must be pretty well raised off the land. Yeah, some minor flooding there, but other than that, they won't ever have any climate change issues in relation to just water. Something I saw that was interesting on the submarine cable side was Latvia has got one cable here, but it wasn't the Latvian cable that interested me. It was this blue one here, which is going from Russia to Kaliningrad, which is kind of like the only bit of direct infrastructure that the Russians have to their enclave here in that part of Europe. So this is Russian territory, and they don't have a road going through, but they do have a cable of some description. I don't know, is it a fiber optic cable or what exactly its purpose is? Probably telecommunications thing. Owners, Rostelecom. Yeah, okay, so that will kind of line up with that. And then in terms of Latvian defense spending, about 2%, probably gone up now since the war in Ukraine. In terms of fragility, quite a stable country, 145th most stable country, we could say. Energy usage, they are a net importer, producing 0.03 quadrillion BTU and consuming 0.122, so they consume a lot more than they produce. But they do have a lot of hydro. I thought this was interesting, primarily because of that hydro station that we were talking about. Because look at the hydro number there, it's huge. And then when we compare it to their neighbours, well, Lithuania has basically zero hydro in comparison. Their wind is actually a big player, and wind, of course, is a very modern phenomenon. So only in the last probably 20 years has wind come on a lot, I'd say. If we run back the clock a few years, you can see wind has really been doubling in that time. And Estonia to the north also has zero hydro. So that one hydro dam, Latvia is quite a big player and quite a big deal in how their economy works, I suppose. In terms of doing business rankings, yeah, quite high, number 19 in the world, along with their other Baltic countries. Latvia is quite free, 88 score on the Freedom House Index. Inflation, I had a quick look. Inflation was quite high during the COVID problems and specifically during the war actually with Russia. See there, that's the inflation going up during COVID, but then boom, 21%, 22% when the gas prices went crazy in 2022. And in terms of growth and GDP, kind of steady growth, nothing too crazy happening there. They are celebrating 10 years of the euro there, I believe, and there was a speech about how the euro has really been a good thing for Latvia in general. Growth 2% there. Not too bad at certain years, but there was that dip, and then here's the financial crisis, minus 14. So nothing too unexpected to be seen there. So yeah, I hadn't done any research about Latvia before. I'm happy to do the video just to kind of explore it a small bit. Again, I didn't see any major industry, but in terms of historical things, Latvia is a really, really cool place.